Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. I can't hear myself in the... There we go. There we go. All right. I think that's probably too loud. Something like that. Oh. All right, we're at City Market. First thing, share this live. Share this live. Free Leslie. Hashtag free Leslie. Hashtag free Ari. My comrades have been arrested. Again. The 9th time Ari's been put in handcuffs in the last year. Hit that Cash App. May 30th Alliance Cash App. Please. We're going to have to bail out Leslie and Ari. Share this live. Hashtag free Leslie. Hashtag free Ari. Share this live. Let's get this going. We're down here at City Market. We got pamphlets and we got cards. At about 1 o'clock today, there was flyers put up, and other people were putting chalk on the sidewalks and chalk on the streets, and Ari and Leslie were down here. The public works. There's a live. You could probably see that there's the public works came down here and tore down the Denzel Duvant flyers again at about 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock, and Ari went live and was filming and asking questions. They said that he could not be here. He asked them why. He's not protesting. He's just filming. He said you couldn't be here. He said why. They could never give him an answer why he couldn't be there. He was just filming. There's multiple trips back to City Hall where I was. I seen Ari a couple times. Then, he left. I heard sirens running, so I figured something was going on. So I came back down here. There was a scrum of people at the road closed signs at Madison and State. And I was like, what's going on? They basically were just talking, and I looked over the road closed signs, and I could see them putting Ari in handcuffs. So I ran that way, grabbed our stuff, the speaker and the megaphones. They took them in handcuffs. Once they got them in handcuffs, they took them up to close to, it was on the west side of Madison Street, almost to Walnut. So I think that's Walnut and Madison. There was a lot of debate about what they were going to arrest them for. They kept telling them criminal trespass, but then they were talking on the phone, which we know that means they're like trying to figure out what charges they can bring. And then they took him in the squad. They took him in the paddy wagon and took off. I'm yet to know how much we're going to need, but I assume that they're misdemeanors. Leslie was putting down chalk, and they said that he was criminally trespassing because he was putting down chalk in their market permit area. So basically, it's for the chalk. So I think there was a big debate about what actually they could charge him for. All right, yeah, we need to hit that Cash App. They're free hashtag free Leslie, hashtag free Ari. Yeah, so we're kind of we had plans. That's why you don't rest on your plans too much, because this kind of thing. So we're just playing it by ear. But we're definitely going to need money in that Cash App to get these guys out. These are unlawful charges. It is not illegal to put chalk on the sidewalks or put chalk on the street. Most of the chalk had been put in on the street and on the sidewalks before it was a permitted area. I don't know if that's what they're going to try to say. But still, it's chalk. They wash it off all the time. It's not illegal. If it was illegal, they would have arrested us a long time ago. So here we are. Can read you out of the pamphlet a little bit, and then hit you up for more money. We got an Integrity Task Force pamphlet, the history of the Winnebago Boone Integrity Task Force. The Winnebago Integrity Task Force was assembled in 2010 in an effort to investigate officer-involved shootings and any in-custody deaths in the Winnebago County area. It was later expanded in 2013 to include Boone County. Introduced to the public nearly a year after the murder of Mark Barmore by Rockford police officers Oda Poole and Stan North. The Winnebago Boone Integrity Task Force was created in an effort to improve transparency and bolster public perception. Theo Glover, the chairman of the task force, stated in 2010. However, despite the reasoning for its creation, the task force has not improved transparency nor bolstered public perception among the community. With each shooting and in-custody death that the task force justifies, regardless of the evidence or witnesses presented, it breeds a distrust of the process the city leadership has elected to be put in place surrounding police use of force. In some cities, the Integrity Task Force includes community members along with police officers to ensure that people outside of law enforcement not only play a role in the decision-making process, but they are also kept informed along the way of the investigation. However, that is not how the task force in Winnebago and Boone County has been assembled, nor how its investigations have been conducted. Because they're a rubber stamp. They every time they come back with justified. Go through the list. Mark Barmore, killed August 24th, 2009. Justified. Well, it wasn't in the task force. That was the one before it. Mike Sago Jr., October 1st. Or maybe it was. Let me look. Mark Barmore. Yeah, it wasn't investigated. Michael Sago Jr., October 1st, 2011. Justified. Philip Johnson, January 28, 2012, justified. Officers go back to work. Logan Bell, October 11, 2012, justified. Officers go back to work. Demetrius Bennett, November 1st, 2012, justified. Officers go back to work. So that 2012 was busy. January, October, November. Philip Johnson, Logan Bell, Demetrius Bennett. Eddie Patterson, November 5th, 2017, justified. Kerry Blake, December 30th, 2018, justified. Eugene Washington, October 28th, 2019, justified. COs go back to work. Same with Joseph McCormick, December 1st, 2019. Mikey Guzman, October 23rd, 2020, justified. Officer goes back to work after he ran him over with his car. Tyrus Jones, October 2nd, 2020, shot in the back while he was running away. It was justified. Michael Slager in North Carolina shot Alton Sterling in the back while he was running away, then planted a gun on him that was all caught on video, and he was brought up on charges. It's basically the same scenario as Tyrus Jones, the same scenario as Jose Gonzalez Jr. There's a what do they call it? The Community Relations Board.
Citizens Review Board. Right now, Rockford is at present putting together a framework of a Citizens Review Board. But honestly, and this is from a take of someone who's actually dealing directly with this board, there are two major issues in Rockford that everyone under the sound of my voice needs to really understand about this city. Because the Justice Center monetizes every human being that goes into that building, there's a portion of Rockford's revenue stream that is guaranteed every year because of the Justice Center. So how can you guarantee justice when you have to focus on making a profit? It's money. It is a portion of the city's revenue comes directly from the Justice Center and the traffic of human bodies that go through this place. That's first and foremost. People need to understand that about Rockford. Now, as for this review board, Citizens Review Board, we already know the task force has not convicted any officer in the history of its inception.
Yeah.
In the history of its inception, every case, and judging by that logic and the stream of incidences, hypothetically speaking, if you put George Floyd's case in Rockford, this officer wouldn't have been convicted.
No.
These are the names that Terry's reading off, and I really want people to get this. Most of these people are deceased. They're deceased.
All these people are dead. All these people died.
Minus Tyrus Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Minus Tyrus Jones. Yeah.
But judging by the systemic level of how they evaluate these cases, honestly and truly, if George Floyd had happened in Rockford, Illinois, Winnebago County, or Boone County, that officer would be out on the street right now.
Dominic McNeese.
Exactly.
He got let out of the. You know, he shot Tyrus Jones in the back on October 2nd. It was justified. Let's see what the date is. Justified November 24th, 2020. So it took him a month and 22 days. And then on January 5th, so 2 months or a month and a half after that, he kicked Denzel Duvant in the face while he was laying face down, handcuffed behind his back, laying down, kicked him in the face among other officers.
I do want to add.
Yep.
I do want to add this as well. Many of you, if you've ever seen me out here in this capacity, I never really spoke last year because I was really looking into the laws and looking into the history of how Rockford polices itself, and I mainly came down in a security a security position. But my actual background in history is I am an actual social activist from another city. Originally, I moved to Rockford, so I have an outside perspective coming into Rockford. Rockford and all its changes, and I'll put them in air quotes. Rockford is literally 40 to 60 years behind other major cities its size in regards to racial relations, in regards to how the police the community, and social perception of citizens really not standing up for people that have been victimized. This city is 40 to 60 years behind. So any changes or adjustments that you see, keep in mind what I just said. I came from a major metropolitan city coming to Rockford. The state that I was in, that city is comparable to Rockford. I'm from New York State. So looking at how the perception, the PR that the police have is, well, you know, when you make an omelet, you break a few eggs. That's not the perception that you need to put out to society and hope that your base just is okay with that. Because a lot of the political pandering that I've seen here, and I'm sure Terry and other individuals, as you're watching this live, can attest. Look at Cabela. Nobody's talking about that. Cabela literally was joking, I believe it was a Facebook post, about shooting people. I was there that day. Anything I have to say about anything that I'm saying, I say it because I was there. These are not stories that people told me. Anything that I speak on is because I was there. I physically put myself in a position to be a witness to the goings-on of how Rockford police move in this city. That was a conscious decision that I made because I wanted an eyewitness view, because I didn't want to hear the PR of them patting little black kids' heads and giving them balloons and suckers. Meanwhile, they're trying to beat their fathers' heads in. I don't know what programs RPD has for the city or metro for the children, but I'm going to state this on this live, and I know politicians are going to bring it to my attention, and that's why I'm stating it publicly. All of your programs that you have scheduled and slated for little kids and pony rides and cupcakes and whatnot for the black community on the other side of the river, you might as well cancel them now. Cancel all of them. I've said this in a meeting with the mayor, and I stand by that. There is no way in the world, as a black man in this community, there is no way in the world I'm going to stand by and allow the police in this city to photo op little black kids, and as soon as the cameras go off, you're beating his dad's head in, or his uncle, or his older brother, as O'Shea said it best. Oh, I care about the kids. That was his way of saying, I don't care about the dad. I care about the kids for now. And this is the city we live in. This is the city we live in.
Yeah, I got a story about it, the city we live in. When Ari and Leslie got arrested earlier, a white man walked by and started yelling, "Back the blue, back the blue." So, you know, of course, we're yelling, spell it with 3 Ks, Ku Klux Klops. And somebody yelled, lynch him, like to about Leslie. And the white man that was yelling "back the blue" said, damn right, lynch him." That's the city we live in. That's the city we live in. The reason why Cabello has a constituency is because this city is fucking racist. You hear me? Yeah. I mean, this has been a year. I've known it's been racist a lot longer than a year, but it has been full blown in my eyes for the last year. I deserved everything that happened to me on May 30th, getting slammed to the ground, a cop kneeling on my head, rubbing my face into the concrete, 2 more cops on my back so I couldn't breathe, and 2 more cops hitting me in the legs with batons. I deserved that because I stood up with black people. I heard that 100 times last summer. A lot of times here at City Market. City Market is a gentrified lynching. If you come down here and you get food and you see these people protesting over here, there is a reason. People were lynched in the streets last year by the police at City Market. Now they're saying 60% majority are minorities and women. They throw in the women so they can get to 60%. But, white women. And they use that, they're using that as a cover for what they did last year. And now they've already started it today. 2 arrests today. Ari and Leslie were arrested.
And
criminal trespass.
And to add to what Terry's saying, the city and the individuals, the representatives that are putting the city market together, they're trying to paint the picture that this was a race relations issue last year. That people were somehow, they're trying to change the narrative and say, but look, we have black people. We've got more black people. We've got women. Why are you guys still out here? Anybody that was paying attention knows why we were down here. People came down to City Market because City Market represents a cross-section of Rockford, Illinois. That's why this was chosen. It wasn't to destroy City Market. It wasn't to shut it down. It was to bring the information front and center to a cross-section of Rockford, Illinois, by way of one of the largest outdoor events that Rockford has. Now, with saying that, my point is this. This was not about race relations. This was about excessive force, police brutality, and racial profiling by the Sheriff Department, Parks Department, and Rockford RPD. Make no mistake about this. There is no second narrative. There is no race relate. This was never about black people being vendors in the City Market. This was never about having more women in City Market. This was about police brutality, and how Rockford responded on a political level was send more cops. Yes. They spent over $500,000 of taxpayers' money for the same 30 people for the entirety of City Market last year. I'm going to say that number again because I'm sure some people don't believe it, but you can go to City Hall and get this information. They spent $500,000 in overtime. One of the highest numbers to date that I was an eyewitness to, and other people can attest to this. Now, this all comes from the top. This came from City Hall. State's attorney doesn't have the power to make the shots on how many officers or who comes out. This is all City Hall. Keep that in mind. At some instances, some of the last City Markets, there were 30 to 40 officers on the scene. And literally, person for person, there was literally at some points an officer for every individual protester. Some of the last City Markets, from 7 till the time that it closed, there were literally more officers walking around than patrons in the City Market. Completely unacceptable. Everything that you see now was deemed impossible last year. We can't close the bridge off. We got to leave it open. And then once they left it open, someone conspired to make it a money grab and say, hey, if we close it, we only need 6 officers. We only need 6 because the first 2 City Markets, I directed traffic. This is not a third party.
There's 5 City Markets before their arrest.
Thank you.
And they blocked the road.
Yes, they blocked the road. How do you know this? Because I was the one there directing the traffic on the bridge before the officers took over and started rerouting traffic when City Market started. I'm sure people even have footage of this.
Yes, there's footage.
I was the one doing it.
Yes.
I made sure, even when doing it, I don't care what narrative they're trying to paint as far as reckless. There were no fires down here. No one was hurt. No one was killed, shot, stabbed by any of the protesters. No violence. None. Even when I was guiding traffic, I made sure that even the drivers, no matter how irate they were, that they got turned around safely and were able to drive away.
Yep. Turn around. Go the other way.
Exactly. That's all we got. You have to go around. And then the officers literally walked over and took over. And redirected the traffic. So obviously, if it was reckless, it wouldn't have been allowed. This is why people were actively moving on the crosswalk, which was, again, not illegal as long as you walk on the crosswalk, which is what people did. That's what started down here was the crosswalk. As Terry just said, if it was 5 City Markets, understand that with those City Markets rerouting traffic, on average there were 4 to 6 officers down here, maybe 2 Metro. But whoever called the shots to leave it open, to leave the bridge open, and not have those officers move in that capacity, which had already been set as a precedent for redirecting traffic, that's why there were so many officers on the scene. The amount of people never really changed. It fluctuated from 20 to 30 people on average. The amount of people never really changed. But the money grab is another systemic issue with Rockford and with the state. Public information, the most politically corrupt state in America is Illinois. This is a fact. This is a fact.
And Rockford is the most corrupt city in Illinois.
So
Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
When you look at corruption on a state level, it's no different than a body, someone that has cancer in their leg. You can't say, well, he's cancer-free. The cancer's not in his hand.
Cut off Rockford. That's what they need to do.
If you have cancer in your body, there's cancer in your body. You treat the disease. So Illinois, people in Rockford can't look at Rockford and say, well, that's Illinois. That can't possibly be Rockford. Corruption, police corruption? Case in point, I've been told personally by officers that, hey, I joined the force. I wanted to change from the inside out. You know what they told me candidly? It's not possible.
No, of course
It's
not.
too powerful, it's too big, it's too well connected. You cannot do it as an individual officer, whether you're a white officer or a black officer. This juggernaut, this system will consume you. It will eat you alive as an officer. You will be blackballed, you will be isolated, you will be sent off to do desk duty or some other non-important job, just pushed into a corner to be busy because you're not going with the flow. Case in point, Buffalo, New York. People say, well, there's good cops. Let me show you what happens to good cops. Let me show you what happens to good cops. Officer in Buffalo, New York watches her partner brutalize a citizen. Brutalize him. She steps in to intervene. You can Google this. This is not made up. I'm using this as a point. But all cops are bad. What? How many times do you see officers attacking people, but the officer standing by don't say anything? This officer, this female black officer in Buffalo, New York, intervened while her partner was brutalizing someone. His response was he punched her in the face.
And she was fired.
She was fired. This happened 10 years ago. She's just now getting retribution.
Yep.
That's what happens to good cops. They either quit
Yep.
or they get fired.
Good cops quit.
Police aren't the answer. Police help keep the status quo. For everyone that thinks, well, no, it's not the police, it's not the police. Police, their job is to keep the status quo. You have to acknowledge the fact that when there is a system set in place and you see malice, ill will, or corruption, and you wonder, well, how is this allowed to exist? That process that is set in place is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Because if it wasn't, it would be enhanced or changed or dismantled. Rockford runs the way that it runs solely because the structure that was set in place, it was designed to work a certain way. So the moment you stand up against it, you're swimming up against stream because everyone else that's a part of this, the structure of it is saying, but it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. Again, make no mistake, when they rebuilt the Justice Center, the old was at capacity. Backroom deals put the Justice Center in the exact same footprint. Near same footprint, and enlarged it. Any sign of an up-and-coming city, any sign of a city with progress you would think would be a lowering of crime, an increase of infrastructure dollars for education, after-school programs, and tutoring programs. I'm going to say this again, Rockford is 40 to 60 years behind other major cities. Has no bearing on the fact that Rockford's in the north. Rockford is 40 to 60 years behind other major cities based on race relations and how people... Rockford ranks number 9th, worst city in America for African Americans to get ahead. It ranks 9th in the country for worst cities for African Americans to get ahead and have economic gain. That right there should tell you. So for everyone saying, well, if people just pick themselves up by the bootstraps, and if they just try harder, and if they do this, and if they do that, you have an entire system dedicated to saying you are more profitable if I put you in jail than if I invest in you to put you in college. That's the city Rockford is. Because they know that when the bodies... when they rebuilt the Justice Center, they built it with a larger capacity. That's not focusing on a future with less police. That's not focusing on a future with less incarceration. That's focusing on, hey, this is big business. We need this stuff to go up. We built a bigger place to put more people. That's not the sign of any progressive, forward-moving city. So that should be proof positive to people saying, well, race relations can't be that bad. It has to be bad for you to monetize a specific people and target them because they have the least money for lawyers, because they're the most disenfranchised. They're the easiest target. So, of course, you need to pick them off at whim so that you can monetize them to make more money for the city. Sounds a lot like what slavery was based on. Going to take you, less fortunate, capitalize on you, and then monetize your efforts. You represent dollar bills to me. Because if that wasn't the case, Rockford would be known today in 2021 as a progressive college town. Rockford is not known for education. Yes, we have Rock Valley College and other colleges, but they're mediocre at best based on larger rankings. Mediocre at best, and why am I saying that? Because you have cities. When I name these colleges, you'll understand why I'm saying it that way. Princeton, Harvard, Yale. When you say those colleges, what you're actually saying is you have towns that are known specifically for education. They've built their towns around the college energy and flow of education to where when you name the school, you're talking about a community. Princeton, Harvard, Yale. There's commerce. There's an influx of capital because you have the sports teams. Syracuse is the middle of nowhere, but it has a major basketball team. Georgetown, like I said, I'm from New York State. Georgetown, major basketball team. But then when you ask a simple question, well, what else does Georgetown have? I'm sure they have factories, but Georgetown is known for education. Its export is education. Syracuse has a phenomenal football and basketball team. Why? Because they majored in the focus of a quality education to define their city. This is why I will continue to say, while I'm in Rockford, Illinois, it's still 40 to 60 years behind. Rockford invested so much money in this Justice Center that it chose that path to define its very future. And that's why you have what you have right here today. This is not the cause. Being a city market is not the cause of the issue. It is a symptom of the issue that Rockford chose in its course of its future. It didn't choose to define itself by universities. It didn't choose to define itself by stellar charter schools or quality education for young kids. It didn't choose to define its future on these things. You have the BMO Harris Arena. That arena could have been booming with college sports. It's barely used. And the other point that I want to make, and I'm going to pass this back over to Terry, is a lot of people don't understand. I'm also a businessman and a business consultant. I'm a business consultant. I can say that again for the people in the back that keep commenting and wondering who I am or what I am. I'm a business consultant. I'm a businessman. I help establish other businesses. No, I'm not a black businessman. I help establish businesses. Women, men, people of color, white people. I help establish businesses. Why did I get this deeply involved? Because I realized how systemically racist in the way the structure of the city is that I had to do something. There's no way in the world I would want to invest or draw a multi-million-dollar business to this town, which is what I was slated to do. There's no way in the world I would continue to do that, knowing that even if I got pulled over, I might not make it home. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. I would just be another casualty in this pamphlet. I would be another name of, well, justified. Just justified. And that's why I put that aside. I put all business ventures aside to focus on this. Because even as a black man in this town, I'm completely offended on how the politicians pander and these photo ops and these halfway gestures and tokenism when the black community has $0 flowing in or out of it. Zero. That's not a coincidence. It's because it's not a priority. Think about it. If you invest a solid infrastructure of $10 to $50 million in the black community. For anyone just to consider this, what happens to crime? If they, on a federal level, I'm not saying Illinois crime broke or Rockford saying, we don't have the funds, we don't have the funds. They can always allocate funds on a federal level by the mayor and by the governor requesting funds to directly impact a completely impoverished and decimated urban blighted area. They can go to the federal government for these funds. Other states, other cities are already doing it. So it doesn't matter if they cry broke or say we don't have it in the budget. It doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. They can procure the funding. They could easily request $10 to $100 million, $10 to $50 million for the city, specifically for economic impact for the blighted black community, Latino community. But then think about it. What happens to the crime rate? I'm of the firm belief I'd love to see within a year or two the progress that I'd like to see. Half of RPD retired or gone because they're not needed. Do you see the logic that I'm using? A progressive city needs less police. I'm sure Yale doesn't have a huge jail downtown and a police force for, at certain events, cops for every person that's at that event. They use their resources in a different way to get a different result. I would love to see within 2 years half of RPD gone, half of the sheriff's department gone, half of the parks department gone. Why? Because they don't have enough crime to deal with or enough urban blight to deal with, because you have those people, those constituents, those taxpayers too busy making money, having barbershops, hair salons, nail salons, making money, instead of trying to struggle to survive and then get arrested because they're caught up in the struggle. That's what $10 million to $50 million would do to Rockford, and that's why no major politician, I'm going to say it again, no major politician is going that far for the black community in Rockford. I don't care if they're the aldermen, I don't care if they're council members, and even go to the highest position in the land. The mayor's not securing major funding for the black community in Rockford. This is a fact. Because when you do that, you offset the Justice Center immediately. You affect that revenue stream. So anyone with common sense is wondering, well, why do they keep going downtown? Why do they keep going to City Market? It's because it's deeper than what you see. And I, as a business consultant, as a businessman, as a social activist from another state, as someone outsider coming into Rockford with a different perspective on how backwards this town is, I'm telling you, it's way deeper than how it looks on the surface. City Market is not about having more black vendors. It's not about having more women as vendors. It was never about race. It was about the politics and weaponizing the police for the sake of people protesting police brutality, excessive force, and racial profiling, and they were met with police brutality, racial profiling, and excessive force. How ironic was that? How ironic.
Infuriating. It's infuriating. I want to elaborate on something he said. He was talking about how Rockford made decisions in the past. In 1964, I believe, Rockford was slated to have Northern Illinois University in downtown Rockford. They turned it down. In the same year, they were slated, the designs were to put I-90 through the center of Rockford. They turned it down. They wanted it outside of Rockford so they could build to it on the east side and leave the west side stagnant. They made these decisions, and he keeps talking about the jail, when they built the jail. Well, I was involved in the struggle against the jail. You know, I went to meetings. They had speakers, and these speakers would come to us and tell us if they build it, they will fill it. If they build it, they'll fill it. They kept saying that, and what did they? Of course. They filled it. That's what they do. You know. So we got eight viewers and a spider on the screen. just to recap, Ari and Leslie have been arrested. We don't know what the bail is going to be yet. We got the legal observers here, and they're keeping an eye on the website to see how much it's going to be. But if you got any money, extra money, any $5, $10, $20, all wonderful and much appreciated. We're going to have to bail these guys out again. The 9th time Ari's been in handcuffs, which I can attest. I've been in handcuffs 7 times, and I'm traumatized. It's traumatic to just be handcuffed. I go to a lot of court dates. I'm the court support. I go to court a lot. I sit through a lot of other cases, and I see every step of the way there's more, more arrests per capita of black people. More, the percentage. There's more arrests, and then once you get to court, more charges, are set against black people. More charges against white people drop. More white people get a lawyer. More black people have the public defender. At every step. That's why, it's not so drastic at the arrest level, because at every step it continues to get worse and worse until you get to the death row, which luckily we don't have in Illinois. But once you get to death row, it's like 80% black. That's because at every step along the way, white people were cut. So it gets to be a bigger and bigger percentage the deeper you get into the justice system. And this jail is full of black people. I'm telling you, I've been there. It's a horrible place. He said it's about money. It is about money. Come on. Are you kidding me? It's like $3 for a pack of ramen noodles. $1.50 a minute for phone calls. Every step of the way, if you have money in your pocket and you get $30 a day while you're in there, so if you get any money build up any money while you're in there, or you went in there with money, when you get out, they put it on a card, and then they charge you $4 every time you take money off that card. So, they're gaming every single aspect of that jail for money. There is no aspect of that jail that they are not gaming for money. The judicial system is gamed for money. I watch it all the time. Through Rosecrans, mental health. Every aspect is gamed for money. They get kickbacks. It's just disgusting. I want to hit those cash apps. Thinking about ending this live for now and coming back in a few minutes. I want to make a post about with the cash app. You got anything?
Again, for those that want to do personal follow-up as social activists in Rockford, because right now, the black community is very, very silent in Rockford on a community level, whether it's community leaders, clergy, very silent. And I'm saying this, I'm saying that to make this point. Sometimes it takes things like this to gain peace. Understand what I'm saying? Sometimes it takes this. It takes confrontation to gain peace sometimes in life. Some of you are probably thinking, no, that's not true. Why does America go to war then?
For money.
Exactly, money. But what does America say? Well, we're here to promote peace.
Yeah, freedom and democracy. That's what they say.
Confrontation sometimes is necessary when you are being confronted. You have to confront what you're being confronted by to gain peace. So there are a lot of African Americans that are looking at this saying, wow, it's a very confrontational circumstance to that you've placed yourself in. Well, it's a very confrontational circumstance that's placed itself in my face. So what? Either I'm going to lay down and die, or I'm going to stand up for what I believe in. I choose to stand. I choose not to be silent. I choose not to ignore it. I choose not to say, well, it didn't hit me directly, so I'm okay. Or, well, I'm working on this $1 million contract, or I'm putting together this project to bring it to Rockford, so I'm different somehow. No. I wake up every day and know, without anyone telling me, I wake up every day knowing that I'm black in America. No one has to, I don't have to get an epiphany to say, oh, I forgot today, because I'm reminded every day of my life what I was born as. I love who I am. But I have to say, under Trump, the one thing that is undeniable, he made racists in America very comfortable to say, hey, I'm not going to smile in your face and grin and say what I have to say when I get into my car or when I get home. I'm just going to tell you how I feel to your face right now. I appreciated that. I respect even a person's motivation to show me, if you hate me to my face. Tell me that you hate me. Don't smile in my face. And that's what this has brought out in Rockford. You can read it in the comments. You can read it on the news comments. You can read it on May 30th comments. Racists are just out there open with it like, hey, this is what I am. They're owning it. They're proud of it. And I'm owning and proud of me taking a stance for what's right. I know ultimately I'm on the right side of history. I know that we are the right side of history. Because the way it looks now, the black community in Rockford, consider this. If Martin Luther King was down here, where would the clergy be? Would they be behind him?
No.
I'm not talking about the fact that we know who he is. If he was down here right now saying, I'm standing for justice and equality, and I'm standing against police brutality, excessive force, and racial profiling, would the clergy stand with him? Or would they have excuses and reasons to say, well, it's not politically correct for me to stand next to this man because, I got a grant from the city for my church. I got a federal grant from the federal government, so if I speak out...
Would Rhonda Greer from NAACP? Would Rhonda Greer from the NAACP in Rockford, would she stand with Martin Luther King if he was down at City Market?
And for
no,
people,
she wouldn't.
For people thinking this is a stretch, it's not a stretch. Remember what he was standing against: civil rights. Civil rights. Standing against police brutality and injustice. They were sicking German shepherds on people. This was not that long ago. All those pictures aren't black and white. In the history books our kids get now, they've done the disservice by making them black and white to try to distance the time frame to make it seem like Martin Luther King wasn't even alive when they had color pictures. There's a lot of color footage of him and Malcolm X because it really wasn't that long ago.
And Rockford's that far behind.
Exactly. Rockford is that far behind. When you look at what's happening down here, and if you say, how can I get involved? Or what can I do? I hear people say this all the time. What can I do? I'm just one person. If you just came down here in solidarity, you legally, by definition, would not be considered a protester. Just because you came down to this area, you would not have to be a protester if you chose to stand in solidarity and say, well, I want to stand with you. And then if you decided to literally walk into City Market, the police can't stop you. None of these vendors can stop you. Because if you came down here, if you didn't want to hold a sign, but you didn't want to say anything, and you just wanted to physically show your presence, even at that level, people don't understand how powerful something that simple is to say, I will stand with you. I will stand with you as you stand, and as your people show the signs, and they have the megaphones, I will show as a physical sign to stand against injustice. I will stand shoulder to shoulder with you. For some people, and I'm telling you, honest to God, that is enough. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what side of history are you going to be found on? I don't expect someone else to fight tooth and nail for my humanity, for my civil rights. I appreciate allies, but as a black man in America, I'm fighting for myself because I'm fighting for unborn children. I'm fighting for possibly a future wife. You see my thinking process. I'm fighting for me to fight for a future that has the potential to be birthed out of me. And I appreciate all the support of everyone that's fighting with us. But I'm directing this to the black community in Rockford. At the end of the day, we're talking about your civil rights. Being abused, being tokenized, being brutalized in this city. Don't expect someone else to fight tooth and nail for you for that. Martin Luther King didn't say, I'm going to stay home and, Al Sharpton's got this. And I hope he takes care of this. Or, you know what, I'm going to stay home. Bobby Kennedy, he's a great guy. You know, he speaks very eloquently for the nation. I'll let him do it. Do you see my point? He stood up and said, I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this for my wife, my kids, and I'm doing this for the broader good because it is a common theme that I'm standing for. This is not a one-off moment. This is a national issue. It wasn't a coincidence that it was like this in other parts of America. It's not a coincidence now of the Republican Party pushing so hard for voter suppression. It's not a coincidence that you have going all the way to the Supreme Court, I believe in the Capitol, where they want to remove the teaching of black history in schools, the teaching of Native American history in in American schools, that they literally want to take all substance that is non-white out of the education system in America now. Why? People are probably, well, why would they even go that far? They're going to go as far as they go as long as they don't get opposition from other people. They're going to keep pushing the mark forward to say, well, hey, I could care less about black history anyway, so why don't we just get it out of the schools on the national level? So if people are waiting for someone else to take that mantle, guess what? You're going to turn around and open a history book in school, and you're not going to see anything about African Americans. They're going to paint the picture as if the slavery in America was a cruise ship, a free cruise, and a vacation somehow. They'd spin it, and make it seem like, well, it was a great deal for everybody. Wake up, Rockford. A lot of people look at this, and I can see in their face the disgust, or they feel like, wow, this is a major inconvenience for them to be down here. This is an inconvenience. You know what's an inconvenience? Being black in Rockford, getting pulled over, or having them called to de-escalate a situation and then shoot you. That's an inconvenience. Being pulled over in Rockford on a routine stop for no reason, and then they're asking you, you mind if I search your car? This is a routine stop. License and registration, please. Okay. You read the plate when you pulled me over. Now you want to run it, come back 20 minutes later, everything checks out. Why am I saying this? Because it happened to me. Auburn Street. Auburn. After the roundabout. Right around August. Every year. Like clockwork. Hey, routine stop. We got a routine stop. License and registration, please. Why? I'm mindful that Justice Center is there to serve a purpose. It's not about the only justice that really exists with that building is the name, the word on the building. It's not about justice. It's about monetizing human beings. I've had officers tell me candidly, I thought I was, I took this job to be the good guy. But here we are sitting in meetings with pie charts and bar graphs about the incarceration rate, and we're basically being told our numbers are down. Who do you go to when you need to report the police? That's where Rockford's at right now. Who do you go to when the police need to be policed? Because it's definitely not the Winnebago Boone County Task Force. Who do you go to?
It's not the Community Relations Board.
Exactly.
It doesn't have the power to do it.
Exactly. When an officer is disciplined, that's basically handled by 2 to 3 individuals across the board. Across the board.
Well, how it is now.
How it is now is that since O'Shea, all discipline goes through the chief of police office. So it actually goes through one person. All discipline of Rockford officers, which basically means there will be no discipline of officers because he stops the chief stops them from being disciplined at all. Recap: Leslie and Ari were arrested at about 4 o'clock, I would guess. They were. They said it was a criminal trespass because the Metro told them that they couldn't be here, but they didn't tell Leslie that. They didn't ask the Metro who they talked to or what they said, so they just basically going around arresting people because Metro says. 5 minutes after they told Leslie that he could be there, then they arrested him, put him in cuffs. So hit that Cash App, Venmo. We got all these things. Let's see. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. Or best thing to do is come down here and hand me some cash. We're going to be down here, City Market, until they're done. I wanted to go back, since I got the time I'm here, I wanted to go back and recap last year's City Market from my perspective. 5 weeks before they arrested anybody, me and Leslie came down here, two men. We had a speaker and some megaphones, and that's it. And we were on the speaker, not using the megaphones. Or Leslie was Leslie was on the speaker. And they had the security then was off-duty RPD officers. They had T-shirts on that had like a picture of a badge on their chest. And Kathy McDermott told these off-duty officers to remove us. So one of them was gung-ho about it, and he came in and he turned off the speaker, and well, at first he pushed me out of the way. He like chicken winged me out of the way, and then put his hand on Leslie's chest and pushed him back and turned off the speaker. And Leslie's like, you touched me, why you touch me? So then there was an argument about whether he had the right to touch him or not, and what did he do wrong. There was we weren't doing anything illegal. This is our First Amendment rights. So then Kathy McDermott came over. We asked her if the off-duty police officer had the right to touch him. She said that he didn't have the right to touch him, and we're like, well, he already did. So then, she wanted to talk off the record, so that her and Leslie went over and talked for like 5 minutes, made kind of like a deal to get us out of there. Leslie said we would leave, but we would be back the next week, and that's what we did. And then so we came back the next week. We had put out a call. There was, that was on live. You can go on May 30th Alliance and see the live video of that happening. So there was a live video. We put out the call to come down to City Market. Because of what happened, people came down, and we had 15 to 20 people. First thing that happened is there was like 4 of us within City Market. We were going to the same place that we had gotten kicked out of. They came up to us, showed us the map of the permit area on his phone. I started asking, where we could be. Could we be on the railroad tracks? That's not in the permit area. Can we stand right there? That's not in the permit area. And the guy's like, trying to talk to Leslie, trying to play the leader game, like Leslie's the leader. I want to talk to Leslie. But I kept interjecting, and, the guy said, "You got to leave." I said, "Why?" And he put his hand on his gun. It was a Metro officer. He put his hand on his gun. He threatened me with violence to leave. So at that point, my life wasn't worth it. I had already been brutalized on May 30th. That's the reason why we were there. I left. I didn't want to get shot. But that was the climate. Before the off-duty officers came up to kick us out, we had dealings with drunk white supremacist market goers that kept telling me that because I had a sign of my wounds from May 30th, and it was all about May 30th. They said we deserved it. They said I deserved it personally for standing up for black people. It was really tense. Earlier Kay said it wasn't about race, which it isn't about race. It's not about the race of any vendors, but it is about race because this is where the white supremacists were. Last year we were going around trying to find crowds of people to try to get our message out about what happened on May 30th. And when we came to City Market, we were confronted the very first day, two men with one white supremacist after another. And then Kathy McDermott, who we've come to find out ongoing is a white supremacist. She is for the white supremacist system, and she has weaponized it. She weaponized it that day, and she has weaponized it since, repeatedly, all the way up until today. Today, people were arrested. So that was the first day. So then the second day was when I got kicked out. By the time Leslie and the other people that were with us when I got kicked out came out. They had the map on their phone, so we had a map of our own to look at. We looked around, where can we be? We came out to Madison and State, and we congregated. We had about 15 people. We showed the map to everybody. We had different ideas. I believe I pointed us towards the crosswalk, but then once we got down by the crosswalk, in the spot we're in now, basically, we had another group discussion about what we were going to do. Nobody was the leader. It was a group discussion, group decisions. Somebody other than me and Leslie suggested we walk in the crosswalk. Isn't it legal to walk in the crosswalk as long as we keep walking? So we tried. We continued to walk on that crosswalk. That first week that we walked on the crosswalk for 3.5 hours, I put like 16 miles on my phone. You know how it tracks your steps. I did like 16 miles that night in 3.5 hours, walking in the crosswalk. Cars being turned around. The cops came and blocked the street on either side at one point. We continued to walk in the crosswalk. Then what would have been the third week, we continued that. Then when they shut down the street, we went into this first park and by the Joe Marino Park, and protested there, and then because they had the street blocked and the crosswalk wasn't meaningful. And then the week after that, then we went farther in to the second park by the fountains, and I think I got off a week, but somewhere that was the last week before the arrest. So we got arrested July 31st. So the 24th of July. Okay.
Do you think it's no bond because of his other cases?
They do that usually like before they set the charges and everything. They're saying no. The website is saying no bond. I assume I assume it's going to be a misdemeanor. Says misdemeanor. So the bond isn't to their discretion, right? Because it's a misdemeanor.
Should be on the list.
Yes. So, and in the past, they've said no bond for misdemeanors at first, and it's been scary, but it's just basically the processing, I believe. So we're still waiting to find out how much the bond is going to be. So we're up to the week of July 31st. Well, July 24th, we went into by the fountains when they shut down the street. We went into by the fountains and we protested along the sidewalk, and we gained about 40 or 50 people, and we pressed our way farther. Same thing? Okay. So Ari and Leslie got arrested today, and they're just got posted, but it's saying no bond at this point. July 24th, we went into the fountain area and protested on the sidewalk, and then they opened the street, so we went back to the crosswalk. The next week, it was Wednesday, they released the findings of May 30th. That all the officers acted within 100% policy and procedure. That's what they said at the for May 30th. That was Wednesday. Then Thursday, they announced that
Fuck them city council meetings.
that City Market was going to be closed that week. And then Friday, we came to protest anyway, and we walked in the crosswalk, and we walked for hours, and the sheriffs were here to direct traffic, stop cars, turn cars around. They had like vigilante families in cars come. Tom Brimhall and his wife and son, and then another car, the Felts, who wouldn't move their cars. They're like, we're not going to move, basically. Tell people to turn around. No, they're just going to stand there. So it like created a jam. The sheriff's department got involved and started directing traffic, trying to get people to turn around. And then the RPD showed up en masse, 30 to 40 cops, They massed up at Markkket and Water, and we were walking in the crosswalk at State and Water, and they came down the street, and they came in a big scrum, and they came for me first, and as they got to me and they surrounded me, and they had the 4 to 6 cops that arrested me. They broke off in smaller groups to arrest other people. I don't really want to go into what happened to me, because I've already done that, and that's in my discovery now. The video of me telling about my arrest that night is in my discovery, being used against me in court. So I don't know what it matters, but anyway, they abused me. The interim chief, Randy Burke, twisted my arm and forced me into a van. I was peaceable. I never was violent. I just was not cooperating. I was unlawfully arrested while I was using my First Amendment right to lawfully assemble and to petition my government for grievances because I had been abused on May 30th. So when they arrested me, I didn't cooperate, and they carried me. They dropped me in the street. They carried me some more, dropped me in the street. I was laying on my side, handcuffed behind my back, and Randy Burke, the interim chief. Yes, the interim chief. They promote the most brutal. They promote the most brutal in Rockford. Randy Burke twisted my arm so hard that I thought my arm was going to break. So I stood up. So I had to stand up and get into a van. Other people, I believe 12 people. 12 or 13 people were arrested on July 31st at City Market. And then the very next day, we were tortured all night. I was kept in a van for 3.5 hours. I had to pee. And then once we got out of the van, then they did not book us. We went straight to solitary confinement for 8 hours. It was July 31st. It was 90-something degrees when we were outside, so we were in T-shirt and shorts. They brought us to solitary, where it was like 50 degrees. They kept us in 50-degree cells for like 8 to 10 hours before we were booked. Yes, they tortured us. I thought I was going to die. I was so cold. I was shivering and shaking, and I thought I was going to die. I couldn't breathe at points. I basically got inside my shirt. They didn't give us any blanket or any mattress cover or nothing. They just, right on the bunk. Then when we got out in the morning, about 1 hour before Back to Blue. I won't get into that fiasco so much, but more people were arrested. I was pepper sprayed in the face. Other people were pepper sprayed. So then it was August 7th. The next City Market was August 7th. And we came to our same spot, masked up in our same spot. Another group masked up in another spot and marched in. That was the first week that they had the protest zone. We advised people not to be in the protest zone, and then we walked on the crosswalk. We got arrested walking on the crosswalk. People stopped walking in the crosswalk and went to the protest zone. The police then went into the protest zone and arrested people in the protest zone. They pepper sprayed into the protest zone. Pepper spraying many people, but in the process, pepper spraying at least 2 minors, a 12-year-old, and I don't know how old the other one was, but I think younger than the 12-year-old. That was the sheriff's department. I forget how many people were arrested that night, but it was many. I think it was 12. Then the next week, we had just me, Leslie, and one other person were arrested. By this time, I had been handcuffed violently for 3 times. On May 30th, they handcuffed me so hard that I bled, and they kept me in the handcuffs for 4 hours, handcuffed to a bench, bleeding. Then July 31st, they carried me from the upside down. I was handcuffed, and they carried me upside down from that, basically putting all the weight on the handcuffs. And then August 7th, I was handcuffed again and carried. It wasn't as bad, but it was a long ways. Handcuffed for a long time. My wrist swollen. So then the third time at City Market that I was arrested, handcuffed, kept in handcuffs for hours. In the whole time that the protest was going on, they kept us in a van. I was handcuffed. I was screaming for them to help me. The other people in the van with me, Leslie and the other person, were banging on the side of the van trying to get their attention to come and help me because my wrist was so bad, it was so painful, being tortured. They came in, one cop came in, checked my handcuffs, said it's fine. I said I'm being tortured. He said, tortured, and left me there. Then that was August 14th. Then the next week, a group came down from Madison, and Neetha got arrested. Some other people got arrested. One of the people from Madison got arrested. They sat down and locked arms and sat down in the street. The person from Madison that got arrested, I've talked to many times at their, not many times, I talked to a few times at their court dates. They thought they were going to die. They had so many cops piled on top of him that he was under so many cops. He thought he couldn't breathe. He thought he was going to die. Then the next week, was that the no arrest week? No, I think that was the week that we got pushed when Wisenhand was in charge, and we brought up the 300-foot rope. Yeah, because yes, the next week we brought the 300-foot rope, and we measured from City Market 300 feet because Leslie had a no contact order with Kathy McDermott, and so we ended up at the corner, the southeast corner of Madison and State, and that became our new spot for a few weeks because some of us couldn't be that close to City Market because we had these unlawful no contact orders with people we didn't know, that never no violence against. They just complained. or were used by the Rockford Police Department to try to hold us from coming to City Market. I didn't get the no contact order with Kathy McDermott. I got no contact order with 6 police. On my arraignment, they tried to have no contact orders. Okay, it's showing $100 for Ari. $100 for Ari. How about for Leslie?
I haven't done it yet.
Okay. So this is doable, folks. $100. I haven't checked. I've been on this live, so I haven't checked our Cash App. See how much. Leslie is also $100. So we need $200 in the Cash App. All right. I'm going to. Well, I should finish this story. So, we're up to August 21st. We were in the car because we were trying to, or no, that was the 14th. Yeah, we measured. That was the week we measured. Yeah, that was the week we measured, and we were up there. And we walked in the crosswalk without blocking traffic. We walked with we walked in the crosswalk at State and Madison. Some people walked in. There were some arrests. Ari got arrested. Dana got arrested. Or is that the time that they ran? I don't know. I should have all this information in front of me before I start telling these stories. But so we continued to get arrested. There was one week that there was no arrests. Then there was the very next week there was no arrests at City Market, but Dana was injured from an instigator in a car at First Street and State. And so we went to Swedish American to find out what was up with her, and they wouldn't let us in. When we asked why, they said there were some kind of emergency, or like there were shots fired. We heard there were shots fired. They didn't tell us that. They wouldn't tell us anything. I asked the police officers for their names and badge numbers. The night before, Chief O'Shea had told us in the round table that the police had to give us their names and badge numbers. So I asked them their names and badge numbers. The goons, like the lower ranking guys, all gave me their names and badge numbers, and then the sheriff turned and tried to walk away as I asked him for his badge number. They arrested me. They arrested me at Swedish American. I'm banned from Swedish American for asking for their badge numbers. I didn't go anywhere near the building. Nothing has happened in any of my cases. I'm yet to be set for trial. Then I think the next week after that is the week that they chased us around downtown. Wizenhand was in charge. Pushed us all the way back to the park. We had people that were arrested, so we tried to walk to the jail. They arrested more people when we tried to walk to the jail. While they were yelling, "Get on the sidewalk," the person got on the sidewalk. As soon as they got on the sidewalk, they pulled them off the sidewalk and threw them down on the concrete and arrested them. That charge was dropped. And then the final week was September 25th. I know I'm skipping over some weeks, but that was the week that Jordan got arrested, was brutalized, had seizures and a seizure, and was arrested. Cheeks was arrested. And then the very next week, Tyrus Jones was shot, and we came out to City Hall and started the occupation. And we're up to 245 days. Today's day 245 as City Hall occupation. All right, we need to get $200. $200. That's not very much. Into the Cash App. Or come down and protest. Come down, show your solidarity. Give me cash. $5, $10, $20. Anything's appreciated. It's not going to take very many people to donate $5 to $10, $20 to get to $200. All right. I'm going to finish this live. Remember, hit the Cash App. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. You can hit PayPal, Venmo, or the Cash App. Or the May 30th Alliance at protonmail.com. You can send us an email saying subscribe and get our newsletter. We put out a newsletter every week. So yeah, we're down here. We outside.